Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. In this video, I wanted to discuss the idea that Nintendo's 2024 may be a bit boring. And now, hold on, before you click off the video, before you leave your comments, I do want to make it clear that when I say boring, I don't necessarily mean that this year will be empty and devoid of any fun games coming out of Nintendo. No, absolutely not. As we know, Nintendo is still coming out with games this year. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door remake, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, the new Endless Ocean game, which is a brilliant blast from the past. I remember seeing the original Endless Ocean on Wii back on store shelves. So Nintendo is still releasing games this year, and they still look really fun. And of course, we all have different opinions and different likes and dislikes. Some of us are going to find that this year is going to be fun and satisfying for our video game tastes, and some of us may find this year to be more of a so-so year. And of course, there are those that will find this year to be a bit of a slower year, and if it wasn't already obvious from the title, I am definitely of the opinion that it is a slower year for Nintendo. We are obviously in that transitionary period between the current generation, which is the Nintendo Switch, and the upcoming next generation, which is the Nintendo Switch 2. Not only that, but the games that are coming out this year are a little bit less ambitious than what we would typically see from Nintendo. Like for example, just last year alone we had Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Super Mario Bros. Wonder release both in the same year, and they were both amazing, more ambitious, high-quality titles released from Nintendo. Not to mention they were big system sellers as well. So in many ways, if the Switch kind of ended its reign of, I guess, Nintendo's primary home console last year, and say they did end up releasing the Switch 2 or their next gen, whatever it's called, this year, then the Nintendo Switch would have actually went out with a bang. But considering how rumors and reports have been suggesting that the Nintendo Switch 2 may have been delayed to next year, well, it's easy now to assume that this year is most likely going to be the last year in which the Nintendo Switch acts as Nintendo's primary console on the market. Therefore, it's easy to assume that this will be a more of a quiet, transitionary year. Going back to what I said earlier, the games that are coming out this year are far less ambitious than something like Tears of the Kingdom and Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, basically all the biggest games that came out for the Switch during its lifespan. We're getting much smaller games this year. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door remake does in fact look fantastic, and I do plan on buying it, but it is, at the end of the day, a remake of a game that many of us have already played. Of course, sure enough, for many others, the game will be a new experience. Of course, I am completely aware of that. For many others, this will be the first time they ever play this game, so in many ways, it might as well be a new game for some. But in general, it is not a new game. It's a game where you can watch the walkthroughs and you can watch the ending on YouTube or whatever, and you'll know exactly what happens. It's not a new game where there's no footage available out there if you just wanted to watch what the story was about. It's all out there, it's all on the internet, right? So it's not a new game. It's a game that's been released for the Nintendo GameCube, that's been remade, revamped, and it looks great, but again, it's not really a new game. And of course, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD is an even bigger offender of this. Even though it looks good, admittedly, in my own opinion, it doesn't look quite as good as I would personally like it to. It's not to the Luigi's Mansion 3 levels of amazing, brilliant graphics, but it's definitely a really good step up from the 3DS visuals. Absolutely. There's no denying the fact that Luigi's Mansion 2 HD still looks far better than its 3DS counterpart. But even for the 3DS, Luigi's Mansion 2 actually still looked really impressive. And I could kind of go on and on about what Nintendo has released so far, like Princess Peach Showtime and Mario vs. Donkey Kong. And these games are fine. These games are fun. But at the end of the day, they're not necessarily the big games that you would associate with being system sellers, with being big, high-profile, high-budget kind of games. These are the type of games that you would typically, and I don't mean to downplay their significance because they are still significant, but these are the type of games that you will see during the end of a system's lifespan. Much smaller titles, more budget-style titles that are still fun and engaging, but not necessarily designed to sell a bajillion new systems like Tears of the Kingdom or Super Mario Odyssey. So let's go back to what I originally said at the beginning of this video, that I think that this year may end up being a fairly boring year for Nintendo in general. And considering the fact that we're no longer really seeing big original titles from Nintendo, at least not for now. Again, an April Direct could theoretically introduce something crazy and big, but I'm not willing to hedge my bets on that. But considering that, and the fact that it has now been reported that the Nintendo Switch 2, or whatever Nintendo's next-gen system will be called, the fact that that will be delayed to next year means that we are not getting a next-gen system this year. It kind of makes this year a more boring transitionary year for Nintendo. They're in a transitionary period. If anything, it's completely understandable and not scary at all, the fact that this year is like this. If anything, this is kind of expected and is a very normal thing. And that's why, again, alluding to the title of this video, it is 100% okay that this year is a bit more boring than a typical year in which the Switch was Nintendo's sole focus. Now we're seeing that focus shift to the next generation. That being said, I'm happy that we're still getting games for the Switch. I'm sure a lot of people are, and I'm sure many of you have these big backlogs of games that you can't wait to dig into and finish while waiting for the next gen to come out. Let's say something like this happened during the second or third year that the Switch was on the market. So basically near the beginning of the Switch's lifespan. What would that mean then? This particular scenario would make a boring year like this a little bit scarier, because then there wouldn't be as many reasons as to why that's happening other than the fact that Nintendo is lagging in terms of their game output. But with the next gen fast approaching, there's a really good reason why this year is the way that it is. And I'm willing to bet that 2025 will be in many ways the complete opposite of what 2024 has been so far. Now, we may still end up getting that April Nintendo Direct, and of course I haven't mentioned the elephant in the room, which is the fact that we will most likely see the reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2 this year. Yes, that is still 100% possible, and we may end up seeing it. So maybe it'll make this year less quote-unquote boring, right? But anyways, guys, that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I didn't ruffle too many feathers, but I just wanted to get that point out there that while this year may be a little bit more boring and a little bit more quiet than Nintendo's typical year, we're on the cusp of something big, and that something big will probably happen in the form of a Switch 2 reveal in the middle of this year, maybe even next month, maybe at the end of the year, who knows? We are on the cusp of something big, and that thing is the Nintendo Switch 2 potentially coming out next year with some brand new big games. So of course, we are all looking forward to the launch of that next-gen system. Of course, I am as well. So anyways, guys, I do want to thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please consider giving it a like. Please consider subscribing. It helps the channel a ton. And I will see you on the next video. Take care, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.